And welcome back to the Friday Rock Show. My name is Tommy Vance. This is a new album that's just come out in the United Kingdom. It is called Zooma. It is by a man who's been in the music scene forever and ever. In fact, since the very beginnings of the modern music scene. And that's absolutely true, as we'll prove during this conversation I'm going to have with John Paul Jones. May I do this first and say welcome and a great pleasure to meet you.
Thank you very much.
That.
Thanks for asking.
I listened to this album virtually all day today and virtually all day yesterday. Because it intrigued me, and it intrigued me on this level. With your musical competency and with your musical experience and with the amount of work that you've done over the years, you have not gone for the instantly commercial. You've gone for the varied, you've gone for the interesting, and you've gone for something that actually, it grows on you. You know what I mean? It's complicated, yet it's very straightforward. Commercial, no, I think you must have made a decision somewhere down the line. I'm just going to do what I do, and this is it, Zooma.
Right, that's pretty much it. I mean, obviously, well, not obviously, it is an instrumental album. No vocals, I don't write songs, I don't sing, and so it's instrumental, and therefore, I suppose in that way, it isn't commercial, or not that commercial. On the other hand, as there are no vocals, no songs, no lyrics, you know, it's got to be interesting, it's got to be listenable, and something's got to be happening all the time.
But and it's diverse too. I mean, it goes from orchestral to funk to rock, and maybe indeed back to orchestral again.
That's more perverse than diverse. But that's how I like it. That's how I do it. I can't really do it any other way.
I've got 3 pages here. These are solid pages of fact of the records that this man has been involved in over the years. And I'm not just talking Led Zeppelin, monstrous act of all time, etc. I'm talking about going back to 1963 with Jet Harris and Tony Meehan, who were part of the Shadows, right? The original Shadows with Cliff Richard.
Right.
And the Rolling Stones, P.P. Arnold, Lionel Bart, the Outlaws, etc. I mean, there's no way that you could. I'd need 5 hours to cover this. We need to do a series on all the things that you've done. But would you mind looking back at some of the stuff that you've done?
Okay.
Okay, and I'll just throw names at you. All right? Lulu.
Lulu. Oh, yeah, well, Lulu was my tenure with Mickey Most.
Yeah.
Lulu was a darling. Did Boat That I Row was the first one I did for her.
Stevens?
Cat Stevens, Matthew and Son, I'm Gonna Get Me a Gun, Decca 2, Broadhurst Gardens.
But what you did the arrangement on that?
No, I did the bass, but I had a very distinctive bass style which I kind of invented, which was sort of churning, sort of noisy thing with a pick, and I used to just, I was so sure of I was so full of myself that I just used to like turn it up, you know. And so in the end you get this little arrangement going on, and Cat's voice and this huge bass guitar. Which
but it worked.
Insisted on, yeah.
You worked with The Mission, totally different concept. New York Dolls, totally different concept.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Mathematic for the People. You
yes.
Worked on R.E.M.'s album.
Yes, yes. He wrote me this little handwritten note saying where he wanted the strings to come in, and but he didn't. It was almost like the Mickey Most and Andrew Oldham days, you know. It's like send me a tape and you know what we want kind of thing. And I wrote the parts out and turned up at Atlanta, flew me over to Atlanta, first class.
Cool.
Put me up in a nice hotel, had the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, and took me out to dinner. It's great. you know, that's how I like to work, to be honest. See, basically, it's all what nobody really knows. It's all the same. It really is all the same. It's just that's a bit more rhythmic that way, or that's got this emphasis on it, you know, whether it's classical or rock and roll or anything. To me, it's all the same. Well, in those days, you'd do, when you were first called, you'd do 2-3 sessions a day, 6-7 days a week. And I was doing arrangements as well, but that was a bit later. And literally, you could do an Engelbert Humperdinck session, an Animals session, or somebody like that, a Dinah Washington session. I mean, it could be rock, rhythm and blues, country, but all in one day. You'd literally go from one studio to another. Hundreds of musicians crossing and recrossing London to different studios. And they'd put the parts in front of you, count you in, do a run-through, do a take, next title, you know, and you'd make 2-3 titles in 3 hours, and then go on to a completely different style of music for the next session.
But you knew, by virtue of what you did, and by virtue of what Jimmy Page did, you both knew each other's skills.
Yeah.
Because Jimmy Page too was a session musician.
He'd bailed out a year or so before.
Right.
To join the Yardbirds.
So you already knew that you could intermingle with them musically. So.
Oh yeah, yeah.
No problem.
We were both professionals. We knew what to do because you always knew if you were on a good session or a bad session, what it was like, and you knew kind of why it was working and why it wasn't working. When you're on that many sessions, you get to know and you get the feeling, and so we knew how to do it basically.
We haven't even touched on Led Zeppelin.
No.
Have we?
Another day, I think.
Exactly. You have to do. It would have to take a couple of weeks to do that, but. 26 tours you did with them, I think. 26.
It could have been, yes. That was the first year, I think, yeah.
Very creative, still to this day, and that's why it continues to sell. That's why it continues to get played. Unfortunately, not to the extent in this country, the United Kingdom, as it does in the United States. I was in New York the other day, turn on the radio, boof, there's a Led Zeppelin track. Here, if you're lucky, it's going to be Stairway to Heaven once a month, and always has been. And I think that's such a shame. Such a shame that the country that created this music, and the people that created this music, don't get the exposure in media that they deserve, where they came from, and indeed still come from.
Well, I suppose we went to America pretty quickly. Also, our early days in England was a mass of gigs that were sold out by word of mouth. There wasn't really much in the press about us. And then we went to America, and then we got the reputation, the sort of press reputation. And then we came back to England, and everybody thought we were American. And so it was, nobody really knew us here, I suppose. But except the people that went to those initial gigs, where they used to turn up somewhere that wasn't even advertised, and there was lines all the way around the block.
Why did you get involved in the formation of Zeppelin? What stimulated you to get out of the avenue you were in and back into a band situation? Yeah. Did you think that Zeppelin were going to take off when you joined them?
I was doing, as I said, 2-3 sessions a day, 7 days a week, 20-30 arrangements a month. I was going completely mad, earning a ton of money. And in fact, my wife saw a little piece in Disc. Remember Disc?
Yes, I do.
And it said that Jimmy Page is forming a band. And she said, for goodness sake, call him up. And I just call him up, I'm going like this. Call him up. So I did, and he said, well, I'm just going up to Birmingham to see a singer, and he thinks he knows a drummer, and I'll tell you what they're like when I get back. And he came back raving and said, they're unbelievable. Apart from the fact that I knew Page was a good musician and had good ideas, I guess I probably thought Zeppelin would, it'd be something to do for a couple of years type of thing. I knew it would be good, whatever it was, but I obviously had no idea of how long it would last or how big it would be.
The legend says it was either Keith Moon or it was Pete Townsend who came up with the name, or whatever. Can you remember who?
It was, well,
I
think it was Keith Moon. He may have got it from Entwistle, but it was originally going to be the name of the band that made Beck's Bolero, which was Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, Nicky Hopkins, myself, and Keith Moon. And we were going to take it on the road. Imagine that lot on the road.
No.
No, well, nor could anybody else, fortunately, so it never happened. And then when we were looking for a name, when we're looking for the names you do, you go through all these awful names. And somebody remembered, remember that one, Led Zeppelin. But I thought it was a terrible name.
Really? Why? The imagery was wrong? Or?
What terrible. Well, I couldn't see it. Couldn't see it at all. I was wrong. So I know about music, but don't ask me about names.
All that image nonsense.
All that image nonsense.
So much.
Robert always used to tell me to stand out at the front, start it. So I used to start the act at the front of the stage, and then I just forget what I was supposed to look like, and just gradually move back to where I used to like to be, which is right next to the drums. There was a cymbal I used to live under, so I could feel the bass drum. And that was the best place to be to make the band work, really. I mean, that's what you're there to do, make the band sound good.
Was it the style of the music that made Led Zeppelin the icon that it still is today, or was it the image?
Oh.
Or was it the diversity?
It was the actual music. It was the four members playing a music that really hadn't been formed, I suppose. It started off as blues, but everybody had different influences and different tastes of music. And as I've said before, it's the area in the middle of us all, the area between us, which was Led Zeppelin. And Page had the original vision of a sort of dynamic electric blues rock group with acoustic sides to it. But then we all followed these, we all had these different influences, and it was all pushed into this melting pot. We were never worried about what we did as long as it pleased us, which I know everybody says that nowadays, but we really were like that. Some of the very dynamic slow blues playing came about. I mean, I'd never played like that before. Simply hadn't. And it's like, this blues is really, really slow, and it gets really, really loud and then goes really, really soft. What on earth do I do? Well, when it gets really, really loud, play lots of notes, play fast, and try and build it up, you know? It's like, you don't normally do that in blues. You just, like, keep very slow. That's the way I played it before. And so that was all different. That style was kind of invented on the spot, as it were. Bonzo and I going, well, you know, it's got to build. All right, well, let's build it somehow, you know. But they don't normally.
What a life.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Just let me reiterate, this is an album that has to be listened to extract everything that's in it. Get a copy and elevate yourself musically.